Are you struggling to close deals? Cold outreach is wasting the time of both the buyer and seller at every stage, especially when sellers are using shallow and outdated data. Your organization can overcome these challenges with technology that translates comprehensive, high-quality buyer data into real-time insights. These deeper insights empower sales reps and teams to adopt the habits of top performers, which leads to better outcomes, like more pipeline, higher win rates, and larger deals. We call this deep sales. And we've built the first deep sales platform with the next generation of LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/trial. That's linkedin.com/trial for a 60-day free trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. Just go to linkedin.com/trial and get started.
This podcast is brought to you by eHarmony, the dating app to find someone you can be yourself with. Why doesn't eHarmony allow copy and paste in first messages? Because you are unique, and your conversations should reflect that. eHarmony wants you to find someone who will get you. How are you going to know who gets you if people send you the same generic conversation starters they message everyone else? Conversations that actually help you get to know each other. Imagine that. Get who gets you on eHarmony. Sign up today.
This episode is sponsored by AutoTrader. There's a good chance you're driving right now. Look around. Safely. What do you see? Cars. Lots of them. And guess what? They're probably on AutoTrader. Whether you're into timeless classics or the latest trends. Did somebody say solar-powered, eco-friendly, vegan, leather-wrapped, aromatherapy-scented, disco ball-equipped, self-driving car? If you see it on the road, you can likely find it on AutoTrader. Big cars, small cars, blue cars, new cars, used cars, electric cars, and one day, maybe even flying cars. With millions to choose from, buying a car becomes a whole lot easier. See it, find it, AutoTrader. Find your next car on autotrader.com.
This episode brought to you by the following patrons: Leaf Girl, Min, Sex Caliber Bones a Lot, Madeline, Alyssa, Vixen, Holly, Natasha, Laura, Jeremy with the laser eyes, Allie, Logan, Libby, Aaron, Kristen, Amy, Tia, Jonathan, and Isaac. And all the patrons want you to know you're loved, you're listened to, and you're a valuable member of this awesome Horror Virgin community. And if you want to hang out with us, do so in the Facebook group where we'll be hanging out daily.
The Horror Virgin, I'm Paige.
And I'm your Horror Virgin Todd, which means I don't like scary movies and you guys make me watch them. And this week, as we continue our back to school month, Paige made us all watch Prom Night. Everything is all right.
Prom Night.
Paige, was this the first time you've seen this movie?
This is the first time I had seen this movie, and primarily I wanted us to watch this movie so that it would, later on, it would be eligible for the sequel, Hella Mary Lou Prom Night 2. However, they are not really connected at all.
Wait, hang on. So this is the movie we had to get through so we could get to the good one?
No, we could get to the even crazier one.
Okay. Spoiler alert. I loved this movie. I thought it was almost perfect.
This is a wild movie. I mean, here's what I will say. First of all, highly recommend watching it high on cold medicine. Perfect.
I don't know that strand, but it sounds great, Paige.
Really awesome.
It's called Mucinex. I think it's a sativa.
Mucinex. It's a sativa.
Paige isn't feeling great today, guys. You'll have to forgive her voice.
Paige did not sleep enough. And her body was like, bitch, you almost 40. Knock that shit off.
Baby girl, same. Same. We're going to get through it, Paige.
We're going to get through it. No, I watched this high on cold medicine. And I feel like as fun as this movie is, as much as I have so much to laugh about, as excited as I am to talk about this movie today, I do think that this is the most egregious case of padding the runtime we have ever had on this podcast.
Paige, the listeners don't know this, but we've just recorded an episode that's going to come out later with let's just say a guest that is specifically for those episodes.
Sure.
And that movie, that will come out sometime on a Friday next month, maybe.
Sure.
Is the most egregious. This one is a little bit egregious. That one is insanely bad at it.
It is, admittedly. But there's just a part of me that I was like, I mean,
you're right. This movie is 92 minutes and they spend legit the first minute of the movie showing us a building and only hearing kids playing in it. and then it reveals that they're playing in it. You know, like it takes a long time. You're like, is this building haunted? Oh no. There are kids actually playing. Why didn't they reveal that earlier? I literally had that in my head.
And then even once they like get into what the kids are doing, like we'll get into it in the episode, it's 15 minutes.
I know.
There's a full dance sequence that is 3 minutes long that is wonderful, and I would not take a second out of it.
Perfect. It's perfect. You could honestly make that longer, in my opinion. Like Jamie Lee Curtis and Nick, who, yes, did kill her sister, have a great dance sequence in this.
Yeah. But it is very clearly to pad the runtime.
Oh, yeah. No, it is.
There's also 2 kills that collectively, those 2 kills take 20 minutes to kill a total of 3 people. And it takes incredibly long. And it's wild.
Paige, when they kill Wendy, it takes so long that I literally had time to write in my notes. The amount of time it takes to kill Wendy makes me think the director thought that we should want her to live. But the movie starts off with her murdering a child and then absolutely being terrible to everyone else. So get the fuck on with it. And then I had to wait another 3 minutes and then she finally died.
Right.
It was so long. But she is not great in this movie to anybody.
No, but she has the best dress at the prom.
Okay, Paige, I wrote in my notes
that I'm going to have notes about dresses at the prom.
Well, I didn't write that specifically. What I did when I saw Jamie Lee Curtis's prom dress reveal, I was like, oof, Paige, I want your thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
Because her dress is actually, when she's not wearing the, I guess it was a jacket top.
Like a shawl.
Yeah. When she's not wearing that, it's fine. I actually don't mind it. But with that thing over it, it looks weird.
She looked 80 years old. Yeah, it is bad.
I mean, all the kids in high school in this movie, they look like high school kids, but they dress like they're 40-year-old CPAs who really want to talk to you at the school PTA meeting.
Which I think was just the 70s.
Oh, it was fully.
And you notice Wendy also has a cover-up thing that she ditches once she gets to the dance too.
Of course.
And so I think it's just kind of the nature of their prom dresses. And once they're there and undressed, but there is a wide chasm of what constitutes a prom outfit in this movie that I was kind of blown away.
Oh, some of them are just in jeans and a t-shirt.
Yeah, well, Lou, who disgusted me in every frame of this film, is in jeans, a t-shirt, a bow tie, and a suit jacket that does not fit. And I did think that was a wild choice.
Hot take about Lou. Are you ready for it? You're going to hate me that I'm about to say this.
He's a rapist?
Oh, I think society is safer that he is dead over Nick. But
Agreed.
All we saw Lou do was be creepy, admittedly, and fight a guy.
Yeah.
We saw Nick murder a child as a kid.
That's true.
So, it's weird that, the guy who was involved in murdering a child accidentally, I get that it's not, on purpose. I don't think they set out to murder that kid, but they did force her out the window, whatever. But it's weird that a movie is the guy who beat up someone in the cafeteria deserves to get beheaded, but the guy who killed a kid does not. He deserves to sleep and be with the victim's sister.
Sure.
That's weird, right?
And without ever coming clean about it, and the brother dies before he can tell people what happened. Yeah, another guy's in prison. Here's what I will say. I think the best guy at this school is Slick, and his death is a tragedy. And I mean that.
Paige, there's so much about Slick I don't understand, but
I appreciate.
I liked his character, and I liked that.
I loved his character.
The movie does sort of position him as the undesirable man from most of the school girls' perspective.
Sure.
But it seems like Mary's into it.
Oh, yeah.
It is Mary, right? I think it's Mary.
No, it's Jude. It's Jude.
Sorry. Thank you.
But here's what I love about Slick in this movie. The movie paints him as undesirable, and yet everything we see of him after that first interaction, which is admittedly weird.
So weird.
Everything we see after him, the prom night stuff, is him being kind, being confident, being outgoing, probably using foreplay where the other guys probably didn't, checking in with her during the sexual experience, making sure she's okay.
Yeah.
And just generally being a cool, chill dude. Proof that it don't matter if you're a short king in a ruffle shirt, confidence will get you a long ass way. And I fucking love him for it. I love Slick in this movie. I was legitimately mad that he dies. He's one of the only people to truly try and fight off the murderer.
And actually does a decentish job. Like,
yes, and immediately fights him off. Doesn't
Yes.
immediately run. His first instinct is, I have to avenge Jude. Like,
Yes.
I love Slick. Slick for president.
Okay, about Slick. I do think it was his first time that night having sex with Jude or whatever.
Agreed.
But I think it's a night he had prepared for.
Yes.
He had been very thoughtful about, like,
Yes.
as he was staple gunning up the red shag carpet on the wall of his brand new shaggin' wagon.
I love
He
it.
was like also trying to figure out exactly where the clit is. Like, he was really like focused on doing it right every time. And the first time he wanted to hit the ground running. So he was like ready for it.
He is the only person we see in this movie that is concerned about her having a good first time.
I know, right? Isn't that great?
Yes.
You know what was wild? Who was the other girl who got murdered?
Kelly.
Okay, Kelly.
Kelly and Drew. And poor Kelly.
I know, but when Drew was like, let's have sex, no, then I'm going to try and force you to go down on me. Like, Drew is a terrible guy.
Drew is awful, and he
Yes.
lives through this movie, and that's not good.
He lives through this movie, and as he's walking out, the movie gives him these few moments, and I thought it was crazy. He's like, well, if you won't do it, I'll find someone that will. And then he gets up, goes to the door, takes off his like flower on his lapel and throws it in there after him.
Yeah.
And then the next time we see him, he does find someone
Yes.
to go off with him. Like
Yes.
the movie is like, yeah, ladies, you know, if you don't fuck Drew, he definitely will find somebody else. And I was like, man, that's not a great message to be sending. But like, it was the 70s. All right, this is technically came out in 80.
80.
But yeah.
Yeah, barely.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
still
yeah.
very disco.
It was probably still filmed in the 70s, 79.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There are parts of this where I'm like, oof, this movie does not understand consent or any
Right.
number of things, but then Slick exists. And I'm like, Slick does understand this. And I do think that the movie, I mean, now granted, his death takes the longest for no good goddamn reason.
I know. It's because he's fighting off. He's so great.
We'll talk about it when we get there.
Yeah, table it.
It's ridiculous.
It is.
Because even before the driving happens, they were padding the runtime.
Oh, yeah, because they have sex, go to a second location to have sex, don't end up having sex, go back to first location, and then get attacked.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean, Paige, and you're not wrong.
Yeah. So there's a part of me that's like, the movie does understand what it looks like to potentially be. And here's the thing. I feel like movies like this might often paint someone like Slick as an air quotes nice guy.
Yeah.
But they don't, because a nice guy would be like, she rejected me, but she'll pay. No.
No, he's just like a nice guy.
Slick literally rolls up and is just like, what up, girl? I like your shapes. Do you want to come with me to school? And she's just like, yeah, okay, shit, all right. And then literally he's like, my lady, I'm happy to get you lunch. Let's hang out. Like, and he's awesome the whole time.
The most surprising thing about this movie was that she accepted a ride from a stranger and then survived it.
Who had driven up onto the sidewalk.
I know. And he just turns out to be a good guy. Like, he's a nice guy.
He just turns out to be a good guy.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Paige, I have a question for you, though, before we start the run through of the plot.
Sure.
You went to a smallish private school? Like, how big was your private school?
My graduating class is only 64 people.
Okay, so how many gymnasiums did your school have?
Technically 2, but very small ones.
Okay. I went to a school with probably 1,500 kids. My graduating class was like 460, I think. And we only had one gymnasium. And it was like the vibe of this school. You know, it looked like this school. So I thought it was insane that during the prom,
There's 2 whole gymnasiums.
yeah, Wendy like gets chased through a second huge gymnasium. I was like, that's
Yeah.
definitely the same set they did the prom scenes on,
It absolutely is.
just redressed as a regular gymnasium.
So Wendy's death takes conservatively half of Act 3.
Yeah.
And it drove me nuts because we have seen all of this school and she is running for what feels like hours.
Paige, we get a second tour of the school. Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear the prom, which means she's close enough to the prom to hear it.
The whole time.
The whole time.
Yeah.
And at
Yeah.
no point does she just run to the prom? A place with tons of people in it, where it would be like 50 to one guy with an axe. Like, you think that those 50 people couldn't bring down this one dude? Like,
the axe guy probably wouldn't even go in there because there's just too many witnesses.
Yes.
You know, yeah, you're safe in a crowd. Yeah. That's why they say if someone's attacking you, you should yell fire.
Right.
Because people love to watch a fire. You know what I'm saying? So they'll come running.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought that was nuts. I was like, oh, okay, I guess she just like went back in time but can still hear the music.
And admittedly, we shared a gymnasium with somebody else and we had our own. So like our big gymnasium was either we had like a large track and field complex across the street at the public school, or we had an elementary school or whatever that was off campus and they had a gymnasium as well.
So your two gymnasiums were actually zero. You had one at a neighboring school and then another one at a neighboring school.
No. We had one on our campus.
Oh, okay.
And then the second one you would have had to walk further.
I thought you were like, no, I had two gyms, but they were actually other schools. We were just rich and didn't give a fuck, so we took them over.
No.
That makes sense, though. Sorry. Yeah. My bad.
Yeah, no, we had one on our campus that was small. We actually called it the multi-purpose room because it was also where the school plays were because it had a stage and shit.
Okay.
The other ones were at other places. But admittedly, I mean, I normally would tell you that it was not quick walking distance, but judging by how much walking and running happens for Wendy in this movie, she would have made it.
Definitely made it. Yeah, she has like 5 minutes to hide from the killer. She definitely could have walked to the prom gym, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, it's crazy. And I think it's nuts. I mean, knowing the backstory, I guess it makes sense because his daughter was like brutally murdered and like, you know, so like I get why Dave Thomas named his restaurant after his daughter, Wendy, but like she's terrible in this movie.
I have so many notes about Wendy. Wendy is an enigma wrapped inside of a question inside of another enigma. And yes, I did take a lot of cold medicine this morning and we're going to get into it.
But Paige, overall, how do you feel about the movie? Because I did sort of dig it.
I mean, it is hilarious and crazy in its own way.
Yeah.
100%.
I also think it plays on like, and maybe not even plays on it because this is 1980. It maybe started some tropes that are still used.
Oh, yes.
Although
yeah.
I do think it sort of pulls out like the Mike Myers of it all with the red herring from the other state penitentiary or whatever, who's like on his way back to town but doesn't even make it. Like, I actually sort of liked that. And like her brother Kim, or it's Jamie Lee Curtis, his brother in the movie.
Yeah, Alex.
Is sort of like using that guy's murder spree as he's escaped prison as like cover for the murders he wants to do. So like it even does, I think, a good job of defining why her brother would choose prom night to do it, because he could probably get away with it. If that guy actually made it back to town and murdered at least one person in town too, I think he would get credit for all of the 4 other murders and he would have gotten away with it. Because this is like 1980s police.
They're terrible.
They were just arresting anybody and saying they did it. Yeah, it's like...
They're so terrible.
Yeah.
I predicted the end of this movie about a third of the way through it.
Okay, Paige, the first time I saw Leslie Nielsen, I was like, oh, he did it.
I did think it was Leslie Nielsen for a while.
I did think at various points in the movie it was going to be Leslie Nielsen, the mom, or the son, or, you know, her Jamie Lee Curtis's brother.
Sure.
And it does turn out to be the brother. But I was like, oh, it's definitely not going to be the guy from Haddonfield, for lack of a better term. You know, like it's not going to be that again, because she was just in that movie 2 years ago.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm looking up. Yeah, that's what I fucking thought. Okay. Lou was on a ton of Law and Order back in the day.
He's got one of those faces, you know, like...
He's got one of those faces.
It's like a perp face for sure. Like he is, I mean, the first time we meet him, Paige, he is not sexually assaulting, but definitely harassing Kim, which is Jamie Lee Curtis's character, right? In the hallway.
I would call that a sexual assault, personally.
Wait, I didn't think he touched her. Does he touch her?
He grabbed her ass. Yeah, he grabbed her ass.
Oh, shit, I must have missed that. Yeah, then yes, that is.
Yeah, later he grabs her again and forces her to kiss him. I would say he assaults her multiple times.
I did see that. That actually was.
Yeah.
I missed the ass grab in the first interaction. But even if you take away that, he's still super creepy. That's why I said he definitely is the bigger danger to society than Nick.
Oh, 100%.
Who technically killed somebody, but I do think it was kids playing and it was sort of an accident, you know? Like,
I absolutely think that was an accident. But I will say that, like, at one point, he comes to pick up Wendy and there's two other guys in the car. And my first instinct was, don't get in that car, Wendy. They ain't going to the prom.
No.
Your body's going to be in a ditch. Like, don't get in that car.
Yeah.
But thankfully, she does end up at the prom safely.
Yeah, she's the ringleader. She feels safe in that car because she's got Lou wrapped around her finger. But, like, I'll say you're right statistically.
Statistically, that's...
that ends badly.
That ends badly. That's 3-on-1. It's not good.
I am a little upset that no one has told me that there is a 80s slasher that like 80% of the third act is like Earth, Wind, and Fire adjacent disco music.
Yeah.
And it culminates in a like final fight on a light up dance floor.
Yeah.
Like that is a Todd movie.
Oh, 100%.
Like that is a movie I'm going to love. And I did love this movie. And also because it's not really that scary, but I loved it. I mean, it's not Earth, Wind, and Fire. It's like Air, Heat, and Thunder or some shit. Like it's like close to Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yes.
It's like adjacent, but I loved it. I was here for it. But Paige, do you want to go through this movie scene by scene?
I do, because I don't know how long this cold medicine's going to hold out. So
let's go.
We cut to an old abandoned school and the sounds of children being like, we're children, we're children, we're children, we're children.
But for like 3 minutes before they reveal them.
Yeah. The killer is coming. The killer, we're going to kill you. And I was like, who are these children trying to kill? Turns out it's a group of children playing hide and seek in this abandoned school and taking it way too fucking serious.
It is. Yeah. Like, guys, it is not life or death. Stop it. It is more or less hide and seek, though, because we see her counting.
Right.
And then she's like, it was the 80s. So she was like, the killer is gonna get you. The killer is gonna get you. The killer is gonna get you. But all the kids have run off, right?
Yeah.
And they're hiding in various locations. And that's when Kim's little sister, I think her name was something.
It's Robin.
It is Robin. You're right. Yeah. So Robin and the brother.
Alex,
thank you.
You're welcome.
For the proper noun. But Alex and Robin walk up and Robin's like, I want to play. And Alex is like, they're never going to let you play. And then Robin walks in.
And Kim walks up with them. Like, she walks them up to the school and is like, oh, I forgot my geography book. I got to go.
Yeah.
You guys stay here. I'll be back. So Kim leaves. So she doesn't know what happens.
Right.
She's not party to it. And for the bulk of the movie, we think that perhaps Alex was not party to it either because he stays outside the school. But Robin goes in.
Yes.
And inadvertently ends up in this hide and seek game that she didn't sign up to play, which, by the way, if you're playing hide and seek and another person shows up, they don't just get looped in. Like, that's not usually how hide and seek works. It's whoever you started with.
I thought Nick put off some real bad vibes when he sees there's a new person who's entered the game. He also is about to get, quote, murdered or tagged or whatever.
Right.
And so he turns on the new person. I was like, oh, that's a bad look,
Yeah,
Nick.
yeah. Well, he's a child.
I know. I'm just saying, I was like, goddamn, Nick is like, she's here, let's kill her. And they're like, you're the only other person playing the game that I'm aware of.
Right.
I thought it was nuts that he did that. And then they shout her out the window to death.
Yeah. Where she just kind of like, they're shouting at her. She gets nervous, backs up and falls out a window and dies from the fall. Falls onto a bunch of glass that is like shattered and slits her neck on some glass.
It is crazy stupid.
Yes.
But they're kids. And I do think it is an accident. I am going to refer to all of these kids as murderers throughout the movie.
Sure.
But just know that I think it was an accident.
I think it was an accident, but I think the real crime was that Alex and Robin were dressed alike. Like, in my notes, I just have, come on, matching. Because they're both in the same striped shirts and stuff for no reason. And which made me wonder, are they twins? Maybe, because I think they would have been the same age, roughly.
What I think is a travesty is it Alex the brother?
Alex is the brother, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a travesty that we see Alex looking exactly like a baby Art Garfunkel.
Real.
And we don't get him to sing like Mrs. Robertson or like Scarborough Fair or anything, like any of that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that I thought was kind of rough in this movie, both in this scene and later, is that all these kids look too much fucking alike. And then later, Alex and Nick look too much alike, where if you just saw them quickly, you're like, which one was that?
Paige, you know how I know the director realized that when he saw the first run of the dailies? Every time her brother's on screen, he's like, what? She's my sister. Like
Yes.
every time, I thought for a second she was going to pull the balaclava over his head and he was going to be like, she's my sister as he dies. Because like the director was like, make sure they know that you're the brother. Make sure they know. That's important.
They also kept the brother in a white shirt and put Nick in a blue shirt and blue suit for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
So that we could tell. I did really appreciate, and we'll get to it in just a second, but when they try to tell us which person is which kid, they show them together, thankfully.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I would have been like, who the fuck are these people? I know we just spent 15 minutes with these children, but they were meaningless. So
they weren't totally meaningless, but I would say 12 of those minutes were unneeded to get the point across that these 4 kids were playing tag or hide and seek, and another kid joined and they mistakenly killed her.
Right. And then they did the I know what you did last summer, and we're like, we won't talk about it. We're children and we know that we have to cover up evidence.
Yeah, we're 10 years old and we know that we will go to jail forever for this thing that happened. So we're going to decide to not tell anybody at 10 years old, and they all stuck to that. And like, that is not something I'm sure I have the capability of doing now. And I certainly didn't at 10.
Let's talk about this because I don't think any of them would have gone to jail. I think it was an accident.
I think it was a terrible, terrible accident. They all learned a terrible, terrible lesson, and the victim paid too high a price to teach it. But I do think it was an accident. I don't think any of them were like, if anyone joins this fucking hide and seek game, we all have to murder them. Like, none of them had that vibe. They were all just like, too into the game, being like, they were just yes-anding each other.
Yeah, well, and I think as they like advanced on her, if she had not backed out through the window and was just like, guys, stop, they would have been like, fine, you're it. And that's how the rest of the scene would have continued.
Exactly. If she had just stopped, they would have like eventually like tickle grabbed her or whatever kids are going to do when they're playing in this moment.
Right.
And then the round would have started and she would have been the next killer or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what actually happened is they all denied it and they blamed it on a local sex offender.
Right.
Who does turn out to have murdered other people. So the movie's like, don't worry, they belonged in an institution.
Yeah. I mean, they did though. Like, they were a sex offender who murdered people.
Yes.
They did belong either in jail if they weren't in like criminally insane, or there if they were criminally insane. But I do think this is a great job of setting up a Mike Myers type figure that like could be the person who is getting revenge.
Right.
And it's a great red herring that I love. I think I like it a lot just because Jamie Lee Curtis is in this movie.
Right.
But I like it.
Yeah, no, and I do think it is a good red herring because the red herring has motivation, has means.
Yes.
And so you're like, yeah, it absolutely could. And goes back to the scene of the crime.
Yeah.
To the point where it's like, it almost seems at the end like he's like, oh, I don't even remember what those kids accused me of. I was too busy killing nurses. It's great. Also, this is where we see Leslie Nielsen. We will find out he is the father of the dead girl, as well as Jamie Lee Curtis and her brother, and also the principal of the school, which at this point was why I was like, he's the murderer, but it's not.
Paige, I have been meaning to tell you something that happened to me that we have to talk about in this moment.
Okay.
So, the other day, I was hanging out with Natalie. She had a client over she was doing personal training with, and we're friends with that client. So I was just sort of hanging out there with them. And a car pulled up right in front of my driveway. A guy wearing a body cam walked out and walked up to me as we're like hanging out in our gym, because that's where she takes a lot of her clients. He's wearing a body cam. So I was like, oh, is he like a cop or something? I figured he was a cop, but he had a clipboard.
Okay.
So he walks up, and we're just in our garage gym.
Did someone get process served while they were at personal training?
I thought I was about to get process served, or like Natalie was about to get process served. And I was like, shit.
Yeah.
One of us has been named in a lawsuit that's going to cost shitloads of money, and it's going to be terrible. And like, it's going to eat up so much bandwidth that I don't have. And like, those were all the moments I'm having to myself as this guy who's just like doing his job.
Yeah, of course.
Wearing a body cam, walking up to me with a clipboard.
Right.
And he walks up to me, and Paige, he says Natalie's ex-husband's name. And in my mind, I was like, yes! Because I knew it wasn't one of us at that moment.
Right, yeah.
He was like, yeah, because you guys had been married, we had this address too. I figured it was a long shot, but I thought you guys might know where he is, and we don't. So we couldn't like even rat him out if we wanted to. But like, anyway, I can't tell you the sigh of relief my brain did when they read the other guy's name.
I have some off mic questions to ask about that man.
About the process server or the X?
The X. I'm glad that you were not process served.
Yeah, me too. It was, I'm sure, well, in fact, I know because I could see the clipboard, so I didn't have to ask these questions. I know it's not a criminal, it's a civil, and it's about a business dispute.
Oh, okay.
I read enough to know he's not a dangerous person.
Sure.
He may or may not have done some shady business stuff. No idea. I have no idea. But
hey, a lot of people had PPP loans.
It could be something like that. I have no idea. But I did like, hang on, are we talking criminal or civil? So I did like get a little nosy with it because I needed to know. But anyway, I thought that was an insane thing that happened. I was very nervous for like 10 minutes.
That's nuts.
It felt like 10 minutes, probably like 10 seconds as he walked up to me.
That would have put my conspiracy theory brain into overtime for sure.
You know what's great about like having ADHD, Paige? Immediately when that guy left, I forgot about it. I was because I was insanely interested in what it could be. And then the guy left and was out of my life. And I was like, anyway, so we're working out. How you guys doing? Like, I was just like on to the next thing.
That's the difference between your ADHD and my ADHD, because the second that man left, I'd be like, great, now I can Google the crimes. And like,
yeah, yours is the hyperfixation kind. And I get that way too when I'm at work. When I'm not at work, I'm flighty and all over the place.
I mean, yeah, this is how I ended up on my spa weekend Googling the history of the health spa that we were at, because I thought it may have been linked to cult. Spoiler, it was.
Anyway, I definitely am going to be like, after we get married, and I'm going to be like, hey, at least I didn't get process served, right? You could do worse.
Yeah, right.
You could do worse, right?
Do way worse. You could be with one of the guys in the Covenant. You could do worse. But we cut to, they found the body of the girl. The police are there. They're going to blame it on that guy. And it's all told through voiceover, almost entirely.
Yes, it is.
Of just us magically hearing what the cops are saying. They're like, yeah, it definitely seems like a sexual attack. I was like, what? How? She fell out a window. Like, what?
I thought when we initially see Leslie Nielsen that he was going to be like the detective who was like, couldn't figure out the case. They pinned it on this guy, but something didn't seem right, and he was going to be trying to solve it even though it was, quote, closed. We just come to find out that he's like the dad?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How did the dad get to the scene of the crime before everybody else?
I don't think he's before. I think he got there at the same time.
Well, I guess there are also cops there. You're right.
Yeah, there are cops there, and I think he's just walking through the school to maybe not be up close.
He's like walking through the crime scene though, right? Like, I'm not crime scene, but like the room she fell out of, I suppose.
Right, which...
What?
Yeah, which also I'm like, so she clearly fell out a window, so why are we saying that this is a sexual attack?
Right?
Yeah.
What are they, a Boeing whistleblower? Like, it's an accident. It wasn't like she got pushed out of a window. It's like, it was an accident. Also, when the detectives show up, one of them grabs what could be like the murder weapon, right?
Right.
It's not. This is like a really accurate depiction of what police, I think, was like back in the day. Like before DNA evidence.
Right, when they're just kind of like, we guess.
Yeah. I mean, but they did have fingerproof evidence at that time. So like they would know not to touch stuff that could be the murder weapon.
Yes.
Like they should know that.
Yeah, but also fingerprint evidence at the time was largely identified by sight, which is also not great.
Of course.
But also they're learning things about fingerprint evidence modern day that it's really not as reliable as we think it is. And so like, you know.
I have trained my fingerprints to look exactly like Pope John Paul II.
Ooh, that's a good call. I think that's, you know, whenever they're like, who ate these curly fries? Is it Pope John Paul II? Yeah.
Paige, if I ate the curly fry,
yeah,
where are they lifting the print from? Because that makes me uncomfortable. Oh, okay. The bag. Okay. Not off the fry post-digestion? Good.
Not off no, I don't think they're dusting the fry because no one could resist a fry.
That's what I'm saying. They'd be dusting a turd, Paige. That's the joke. Welcome to the joke-versation.
No, it's the cold medicine. I did have a note in this one scene where they're carrying her body, and it's fully children carrying the stretcher.
Is it? I honestly didn't notice because Leslie Nielsen is going over to hug his wife, but yeah.
Yeah, it's not the children from before. It's just definitely somebody that they were like, okay, so we have one grown-up and one large child. Do you think anyone will notice? No, put him in a coroner's uniform. And it's pretty wild.
I do like that you had to clarify it wasn't the movie making the kids who killed the child carry the child's body. Like, you got to clean up your mess. It wasn't that.
But here's the thing. You know this movie is crazy enough to do that. Like, it wouldn't even be out of place.
I would have loved it. I'll carry her, paw. And it's just like them carrying. Sorry.
We cut to her grave 6 years later.
Which means if it's 6 years later, Kim, which is Jamie Lee Curtis's character, was 12 because now she's about to graduate, or 11 or 12.
Yeah.
She's about to graduate. My question is, how old is Alex, her brother?
She said that Robin would be a junior, so I think they're 1 year younger.
Okay.
And Alex might be 2 years younger, so maybe Alex is even younger. Maybe they've got one a year.
I wondered if Alex and Robin were twins because
I did too, yeah.
Alex is going to the prom, and Robin, this would have been her first year at the prom, they say, right? So I wondered if they were twins.
Yes. Yeah, because she's asking if Alex has a date. So yeah, I think Robin and Alex must have been twins.
Yeah.
That's why they were dressed alike in those weird prison turtlenecks.
They were all the rage back in 79, Paige.
You know it.
Well before we were born.
But we cut to breakfast, and Jamie Lee Curtis is like, hey, Alex, do you have a date for the prom yet? I hear Jude's still available. And he's just like, I'm not that desperate. And then when we see Jude, literally one scene from now, we're like, she looks fine.
I was like, he should be so lucky.
Yeah.
To be able to take out an attractive woman who is like gonna give it away to some dude she meets later today. So
the movie positions Jude as unattractive and desperate, and she is exactly as attractive as all of the rest of them. And it's that weird 70s and 80s movie thing of like who they, I guess, thought was ugly. And I'm like, she looks fine. I don't understand. I'm so confused.
Yeah.
I don't know. But he's going to be running the sound system that night, so he doesn't want to date. What he's really going to be doing is fucking murdering fools left and right, and that's why he doesn't want to date.
He's going to be asking people a few questions about their past.
Exactly. We cut to Hamilton High, where they walk past Mr. Sykes, who is just the groundskeeper. That poor man.
Paige, they set Mr. Sykes up like he is a possible murderer.
Yes.
And the girls are always like, he looks creepy at all the women, which I'll say this, he does have a creepy vibe to him, but
he has a creepy vibe, but he's not actively doing anything creepy.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Paige.
Yeah.
All we see him do is take pride in his work hard, get flashed by a teenager against his will, and then try to warn them there's a murderer on the loose.
Right.
Sykes is a great guy.
Yes, but we cut to a phone cord and the like shot going up the phone cord is like a full minute long. And I was like, there's no way this cord is that long. And the table isn't that long because it's on a table.
Unless you're about to reveal that phone cord is not plugged in and he's wearing heels, it's too long of a shot and you're not Alfred Hitchcock. This is not Psycho. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So he calls, whoever's on that phone, calls Jude and is like, come out to play tonight. I'll see you at prom. And she's just like, well, he didn't want to ask me. Like she takes it as like a date. And her mom is all sad.
Paige, she even says to her mom, when her mom comes in and is like, who was that? And she's like, oh, it's just some obscene caller. And not even that obscene. And her mom's like, oh, shucks. My girl's going to be a spinster forever. Like, she was sadder that it wasn't obscene enough.
Hilarious.
It was insane. I loved it, though.
Hilarious. And she walks out, she goes on the sidewalk, and a van pulls up onto the sidewalk and is like, need a lift? And she's like, who the hell are you? And he's like, Seymour Crane, but you can call me Slick. And she's like, how old are you? And he's like, old enough. And here's my question. He goes to school with her.
And Paige, there are 12 other people that go to that school. Yes.
He's been in school with her this entire time, I would imagine, unless he's a new student the week of prom.
I transferred in this morning. Do you want to bang tonight at prom? Like, that is his vibe. And honestly, he's got the confidence to pull it off, guys.
I mean, look, next week we're going to watch a movie that's just as bad, but in different ways about a new student that transfers in. And I can't wait to scream about it. So it'll be great.
Well, now I am waiting with bated breath to find out what that movie's going to be.
It's something I've wanted to do for a while because it's so bad.
Nice.
And back to school seems like the perfect time since it is the start of a school year in the movie.
Love it. Well, we'll table it. Looking forward to it.
Meanwhile, they pull up to Hamilton High.
Good old Hammy High.
Hammy High. Or rather, she gets in the van and she's like, you got to take me straight to Hamilton High. And he's like, of course, sugar. And I was like, this is how porns start. This is the bang bus.
Paige, it's actually Not that I have ever seen those movies back when they started when I was in college.
You've never seen a bang bus.
But this van is way nicer than the vans that they used for Bang Bus.
100. It's not just a Ford Econo line. It's...
Paige, why do you have the VIN number memorized of the Bang Bus?
Well, the Bang Bus is just that white cargo van that literally looks like it's also trafficking people. It's terrifying.
Paige, it literally is.
That's what I'm saying. But this is how they all start of like, oh, you could take me to class? Thanks. Great. How can I pay you back for the lift? Like, that is exactly what the next scene of this is.
Paige is assuming that's what the Bang Bus movies are like. She doesn't know for sure.
I don't know for sure.
We promise.
Sure. In my headcanon, they banged it out before school in that van.
Wow.
Where she saw the inside of the van and the red carpet on the walls, it was like, wow, you really are slick. I think they at least made out before school, because by the time we meet them at lunchtime, they are like almost married.
She seems into him too, which I really like, because the other girls do like position him and honestly her as like outcasts. Like, we hang out with them, they're nice people, but they're ugly. They don't deserve love. And they like actually do find like a great connection. I think if they hadn't gotten brutally murdered that night, they might have ended up together.
No, and he's got Jack Black magic, is what I would say.
Yes. I think he does have a great chemistry about him. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm assuming that's what you mean by that.
Yes, that's exactly what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, hey, he's not the tallest. He's not the most stereotypically attractive, but he never has a problem getting chicks because he's fun to be around and he's like confident and he shoots his shot. And like, man, I hang out with a lot of comics that are exactly his level of attractive. Ain't none of them hurting for dates. Not a single one.
Paige, people when they see me in a picture with my fiance ask if I'm rich, and I'll be like, no, I'm funny.
I'm rich in jokes.
Yeah, it's way worse than being actually rich.
Yeah, actually rich. That's a lot easier, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, we cut to Kelly. And again, as they're kind of cutting to each one of these people and the guy on the phone is like, it's time to die, or whatever. We're cutting to their kid picture so we know which annoying kid they were.
Yeah. It does a good job, too, because it like cuts out later their picture from the yearbook and puts it up in their locker.
Right.
So you know that they're one of the 4 childhood, like, accidental death / murderers, right?
Right. And she answers the phone and she's immediately scared by it. But Drew, her boyfriend, comes to pick her up for school and he's like, oh, did it turn you on? I was like, what? No.
Drew is an idiot the entire movie. The fact that he was like, oh, you had an obscene caller? Did it turn you on? Are you like raring to go? And she's like, no, it was an obscene caller. You're an idiot.
Yeah.
And he's like, whatever, you totally got wet. Let's get to school. He's like, he's a trash human the whole movie.
Well, he's like, maybe I should try it. And here's the thing. I love a sexy phone call. Love it. But if you're not like expecting it, and if it's not the person you're expecting it from, not a good time.
No, that's, I think, the point, right?
Yeah.
Sure, phone sex is great, but like obscene calls from someone, like that's like an unsolicited dick pic from the 70s.
Right.
Like you don't want that.
No. And in the 70s, you had to like develop it and everything.
Oh.
It was like, you needed to go to a dark room.
Can you imagine being a photographist? I don't even know what it's called.
Photographist? You mean a photographer?
No, I mean like someone who like does just the printing of the photos. What is that called?
Oh, I don't know.
Like a photo development center employee. Like those places, yes. I'm sure still exist, but they were much more common at this time. So like, I don't know like a pharmacist for photos. That's what I'm talking about. Like,
sure. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
During this time, all of everyone's amateur nudes came through those people. There's no way there's not like a bunch of really sketchy collections people are finding as that age group is dying out in attics. I didn't think about that until right now, but I bet that's going to be a problem.
Yes, obviously it was. I don't know how much of it was a problem because of the way cameras worked, where like part of the reason so many people take nudes now is our cameras can have timers, you can flip so you can see.
Yeah.
And like, it's back then you had to set up a camera and put film in it or use Polaroids and whatever. So like, and Polaroids you don't have to develop. So there's that.
True. I guess they did have Polaroids back then. That was probably the amateur nude camera
photo
of choice.
choice.
Yeah. The best part about getting amateur nudes is shaking it until it develops. You know what I'm saying?
There's a handful of people I have followed on Instagram, and one of them is I would say, fetish model.
Okay.
And they would do giveaways of Polaroids from the set, where like they actually took real photos that are going to be published somewhere.
No shit. Okay.
And then they would like raffle off or like auction off the Polaroids from the set. And there's something sexy about a Polaroid, I think. Keep taking nudes on Polaroid.
It's a unique item.
It's a unique item. There's a one of one.
Exactly.
Anyway, we cut to Nick, who is on his way out of the house. He doesn't answer the phone because he's like, oh, it's windy. Wendy's mad. And his dad is like, you're the fastest man on the disco floor. It's a real, and his dad is the sheriff?
Yes.
Yeah.
His dad is the sheriff. Yeah.
And they let that phone ring because he's like, Wendy's mad because we're not going to the prom, which makes me feel like he broke up with Wendy all of yesterday. And then later in this movie, he and Kim are like, I love you. Like, it's madness.
I wrote in my notes, he was dating Wendy a week ago.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't say a day, but it could have been a day, though. We don't know.
Yes.
But it does seem recent. Not that I'm trying to, like, get the listeners to, like, be on Wendy's side or anything, because Wendy is terrible.
And a child murderer.
Right? I'm just saying her dad, Dave, shouldn't have named his burger joint after her.
Look, the burgers are square because they don't cut corners. Anyway, so we cut to the police station where Nick's dad is sitting, and this is all in voiceover. I don't know why there's so much voiceover in this movie. He's like, why did we chase him? Her death was unclear, and the men harassed him, and he caught on fire, and he burned, and like all this stuff. And you're just like, what? Where is this coming from?
But all they're doing is setting up Leonard March or something, who is the catatonic, schizophrenic, sex offender, murderer guy who broke out of the jail. Let's just say from Haddonfield or whatever. Like, he is the Mike Myers red herring, if you want to put that in big air quotes, in this movie.
Yeah. Catatonic, schizophrenic. Who would ever really top that? Oh, we haven't done Teen Witch.
We haven't done Teen Witch, but I knew it, and I've never seen that movie.
It's eligible.
Oh, is it a back-to-school movie, Teen Witch?
It's a teen movie. I don't know. I think it probably fits more on Romancing the Pod. Maybe we do it during a spooky month there or something.
Yeah.
But
okay.
Somebody put, and I posted it on Instagram, somebody put the Teen Witch rap over Ray Gunn's breakdancing routine from the Olympics.
I saw that. I saw when you posted it. Yeah, it was so funny.
Syncs perfectly. Oh, anyway. So yeah, one of the other guys is like, yeah, he's loose. And we found that nurse on the road, and they're like, okay, we'll go find her. We cut to Wendy.
Yeah.
Wendy gets a phone call. Do you still like to play games? Would you like to play a game? And she's like, get lost, Lou, and hangs up. So now we know that Lou has been sex pesting all of the women at school for a long time.
For Lou, it's a numbers game. So he's just like putting out feelers, seeing what comes back.
Except that he's feeling a little too hard on those feelers. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I think Lou's a terrible guy. Please don't construe me explaining what he's doing as like endorsement of what he's doing.
Yes.
He's terrible. I do think the world is a better place with him beheaded at the end of this.
Yeah.
He was definitely going down a path that leads to domestic violence / murder.
Oh, hundo.
Yeah. Whereas Nick made a mistake as a child.
Right. One of my favorite lines in this entire movie is as Wendy's leaving to go to school, her mom says,
I wrote this down.
will you be home for dinner? And she just goes, how should I know?
Bitch. Like, she's so mean to her own mother. It made it feel like this may be just like The Help. Like, maybe that's not the mom. Maybe they're rich because, you know, they've got that Dave Thomas burger joint money. So, like, maybe that's just like The Help.
No, I think that's her mom because we see her later, but like, she's definitely rich. But just the idea of like, will you be home for dinner? How should I know?
It's
like,
insane.
What girl? What?
My mom would have smacked me and been like, if you live in my house, I will know.
I will
You will tell me now. Like, I would not be able to talk to my mom like that and get away with it, nor would I want to because I'm not a monster.
I mean, here's the thing. The natural, if you don't want her to be home for dinner, like if whatever in your screenwriting movie needs to happen that she's not, the logical line is, Mom, it's prom.
Right?
It doesn't explain anything more than this.
Or like, Mom, it's prom, I better not be home by dinner, right?
Right.
Like,
yes.
Anything that's like not a rude, catty remark to her own mother.
How should I know? It's so funny. I was like, girl, what?
I know.
Anyway, she gets in her dope car and drives to school. Meanwhile, at school, we see Lou for the first time. And Lou literally looks like Disco Shrek. I'm dead ass serious. That is a choice of a unibrow.
Holy shit, Paige. Disco Shrek is it to a T. I couldn't place it, but that is it. You are right.
It is exactly Disco Shrek.
If he had green skin, it'd be over.
It'd be over, Disco Shrek. And here's the thing. Yes, some of those facial features are just his facial features, but they are actively making them look worse in this movie. And that unibrow is a choice. But he sidles up to Jamie Lee Curtis as if he's like, why wouldn't she pick me? Why wouldn't she come to my swamp?
And this is also the other side of confidence. And this is where confidence can get you into trouble, and honestly should get you into trouble, because it's like a creepy kind of, I have any right to touch any part of your body kind of confidence. That's not good.
Yes.
Whereas Slick is just confident that you will like him if you get to know him. That's a different vibe.
Yes.
So when we're
yes.
talking about confidence, we mean two different things. But Lou is very much the vibe of, I can do anything I want because I can beat up anybody. That's his vibe.
Yeah, exactly. And so he does grab her ass.
Yeah, I must have missed that, but yeah.
They have to like get away from him, and it's fucked up. And everyone else just like, ha 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 ha, Disco Shrek. Like, they just laugh it off. And I'm like, no, this is assault. But we cut to the nurse was found at the scene of the crime. The old school where the kids were, she's found inside, dead. Because, spoiler, schizophrenic catatonic, who would ever really kill nurses? This guy. And apparently he just was like, oh, I know this place. What an easy place to kill a nurse. And did, and then moved on. He doesn't stay in town. He's just gone.
I thought the nurse was someone he stole, like as a hostage from the institution he escaped from, and then he murdered her on the way and just dumped her body.
That's very possible too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't think he like found a nurse and like stabbed her. I think he like stole her and then
No.
stabbed her.
He brought her from the hospital as part of his escape and either killed her on the way or killed her there. Regardless, her body ends up there.
Yeah.
And I think they take a lot of importance from her body being there because it's the scene of the crime that maybe they have some guilt about. But in reality, I think he was just like, pit stop on the way to go do other crimes. And it's just gone.
Yeah, I mean, he is criminally insane. Like, I don't know if they say that specifically, but he is like on a murder spree after escaping a mental asylum. I don't know what else you'd call that except for Mike Myers.
Yeah, no, it's like he's on his way to Haddonfield.
Yeah.
And to be honest, what would be, if you told me that was Mike Myers and this is just a movie that happens alongside a Halloween movie, hysterical.
Yeah.
Can't wait till Laurie Strode finds out she has a long lost twin.
Oh my God.
Real great. Anyway, so they're like, looks like he's here for revenge, but against who? Da-da!
Ba-da, ba-da, ba-da. Yeah, like little James Bond music. Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, because he has burns over a lot of his body, they're like, he'll be noticed. So he can't move around freely. We know what kind of car he's in. Just set up an APB for the car. They never find the car because by the time they're looking for the car, it's already gone. Like he's 50 miles away by the time they find him later.
Yeah.
We cut to the gymnasium where I was about to say Laurie Strode. Kim, Jamie Lee Curtis, goes in and tests out the new disco dance floor. That floor is awesome. The runway is everything.
Oh, the runway that looks like a miniature version of an airport runway. Like,
I love it. I love every second of it.
It's great. But when his head like rolls out onto it, I laughed. I thought it was so funny.
Perfection.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jamie Lee Curtis is dancing and practicing a dance that she and Nick have clearly choreographed when, who's to say?
in the week since he broke up with Wendy, right?
Right.
It seems like it was announced that they won prom king and queen, and Nick was like, well, then I have to break up with my girlfriend and be with Kim.
We go together. We've got to be the king and we got to be the queen together. Yeah, like that kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now all I want is for this movie to be a musical, but an 80s musical, not 60s. So it's like, Michael Jackson style music. Like if Quincy Jones wrote all the music in this movie, it would be that. And I would love a Quincy Jones musical version of this movie.
Oh, that would actually be very, very fun.
But then the killer's gonna get you bit that I did earlier would actually have been true.
Killer's gonna get you
Tonight.
Anyway, Wendy is just like, oh, you're practicing? Because I'm going to steal your boyfriend. And whatever you think is going to happen tonight is the last night. And it's not who you go with, it's who takes you home. And I was like, damn, Wendy.
I mean, she's not wrong.
She's not wrong.
Just like that famous 80s song, Who's Gonna Drive You Home Tonight?
Yeah.
But I don't think we mentioned this. When they're initially walking down the hallway, when a 40-year-old Lou in a too-tight shirt, unibrow, and a cigarette walking down his high school hallway is hitting on Kim, we also run into Wendy talking to Nick, and Wendy really pees all over him in that scene because she
kisses him.
And it's clear that they were not having an intimate lovers kind of a conversation. It was like Nick was like, hey, I'm not with you.
Right.
I'm going to prom with Kim. We don't see that side of the conversation, but that's the vibe as we walk up to it.
Right.
And she straight up just kisses him and is like, goodbye, lover, right in front of Kim.
Yeah.
It's real shitty. Wendy is a villain.
Oh, yeah. Wendy is a full-on villain with the best dress. And she's the best dancer at St. Bernadette's with the worst reputation. I'm so tired. My head is full of NyQuil.
I think it's a sativa.
Anyway, yes. She's like, he's my man and you can't have him and you could disco dance all you want, but he's coming home with me. We cut to the killer tearing out their yearbook photos.
Yeah.
Those are going to come into play later.
Actually, pretty soon, because he puts them in all their lockers, we find out.
But we cut to lunch, and this sequences of a handful of scenes that are about to happen is a place where this movie does something straight out of Mad Men Mars, where they just film scenes wherever they feel like filming them at any time, and people are wherever they need to be at whatever time they need to be there, regardless of the confines of time and space within the day.
I know of a very egregious time this happens in this movie.
We'll go through it.
Yeah, well, we'll table it then. Yeah, we'll table it. But it's bad.
Because the sequence of them kind of starts here, because they start out at lunch in the cafeteria.
Yes.
So it's noon-ish. And it's lunch.
Yeah.
And they're in line, and Lou comes up in a ski mask.
Which, I don't think in a post-Columbine world, you'd be able to walk around school with a balaclava over your head.
Let me tell you this. There is a comedian I know who wears a ski mask as part of a character that he plays. And he went to go perform at a club out of town, and a bunch of people were there, but nobody told the club, hey, this guy wears a ski mask sometimes. We know it's weird, but he's harmless. Nobody bothered to inform everyone that that's what was going to happen.
Did he walk out on stage with it?
He does, and then takes it off, and but long before that, he was in the green room. And so people were just like, there's a guy in a fucking ski mask in the green room, and they freaked the fuck out.
Yeah, I would too.
Yes, understandably.
I'd be like, hey, bro, why are you wearing a balaclava? That's weird. We're in LA. It's hot. What are you doing?
So he does it in LA all the time, and but because we know him and we see him all the time, we're just like, hey man, nobody thinks anything of it because we know who it is.
I would call him Belly for short. Hey, Belly, what up, baby?
Oh,
for belly club.
Part of the reason he does it is sometimes he'll introduce decoys on stage, real MF Doom shit.
Okay, that's kind of cool. Yeah,
right. It's really funny. But yeah, so he went to Austin and then had it on in Austin, and they were like, what the fuck is happening? And it literally took 2 or 3 people getting freaked out before they came to one of the LA comics, and they were like, oh, that's just him. And they were like, what?
But why? But why though? Yeah.
And from that point forward at that particular club, people weren't allowed in the green room. They were like, how about you guys stay in the bar? But yeah.
We call it the Bariklava. Go over there.
Go over there. All this to say, if you're walking around in a ski mask, expect some stares. And he, again, grabs Jamie Lee Curtis and forces himself on her. It is assault.
He sexually assaults her wearing a balaclava mask. Like, it's a lot for a high school senior to do. Like, that.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, the world's a better place, even though he maybe didn't kill anybody. I'm sort of okay with him being dead.
Look, I know Donkey's going to be sad, but he'll get over it. So, like, it'll be okay.
He's like, my onion.
I'm making waffles for the funeral. Anyway.
Dragon's going to take this so hard.
So hard.
Warmer, sunnier days are coming. Fuel up for them with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals in time for summer. Well, let's call it fall. Thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. Guys, you can make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled with easy, nutritious options, all while keeping kitchen time to a minimum. Factor's meals are ready to go in 2 minutes. No shopping, prepping, cooking, or cleaning up. So head to factormeals.com/horrorvirgin50 and use code horrorvirgin50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code horrorvirgin50 at factormeals.com/horrorvirgin50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month's while your subscription's active.
Okay, want to know where to find brands on brands this fall? At Ross. They've got big savings on the latest fall styles. Seriously, you'll find the brands you want at prices you'll love. At Ross. Yes, for less.
Anyway, her brother, initially it looks like Nick, but it is her brother Alex, gets in a fight with Lou and ends up in the principal's office. Leslie Nielsen is her dad and the principal. And I do love that he's like, they go to the principal's office. He's like, oh, he was fighting too. And Leslie Nielsen's like, yeah, but I don't like you. And that's my kid. And he's like, you're playing favorites. He's like, yeah, obviously.
I do like that he owns it, but also we saw the whole thing go down and we know his son actually was just protecting his sister, you know? Like,
self-defense, yeah.
So like I, again, have no problem with this, even though he uses the term suspend indefinitely. And I wondered to myself, did this movie take place in a time before the word expulsion exists?
No, I think this probably would have eventually resulted in expulsion.
But what is the difference between a suspend indefinitely and expulsion?
Suspend indefinitely means they haven't decided if they're going to expel you yet.
Okay.
Because it's not, you are not expelled yet.
It's like suspended with pay.
Yes.
It's like he shot someone and is a cop.
Yes.
And they don't want to like punish him fully. So they're like, take a vacation from school.
Yeah.
Because I did wonder, like, if you were expelled from school, they definitely wouldn't let you come to prom, right?
If you were suspended from school, you probably wouldn't be allowed to come to prom. I was shocked that they let him in.
Oh, no. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, he should clearly not be let in, right?
Yeah. But I also don't think people are paying too much attention at this prom, especially considering that like 90% of the children under 21 there are super drunk.
Yeah.
Super drunk. And everyone's just like, oh, that's just Jerry. Like, it's just wild.
It's great. The 70s, man.
The 70s, man. Anyway, he has Alex go to the nurse and he throws the ski mask out and we get a shot of it because this movie wants us to think it's him later.
It does.
But you know who else had access to the ski mask?
His son.
Alex.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they're talking through why the nurse potentially was killed. Meanwhile, that VW bug drives by.
Yeah.
We will find out it's out of town. But this is, for me, this next scene is the most egregious of things happening in random places outside of time in this movie, where Jamie Lee Curtis, Kim, and Nick are on like cliffs by a beach.
Yeah.
The bluffs.
Yes, it's got to be the bluffs. It's got to be.
It's got to be the bluffs, which, having seen the whole movie and knowing that Jude and Slick go to the bluffs to have sex, it must be close. Like, it must be walkable from school somehow.
I think the school is on the bluffs at some point. Like,
yeah.
They have to be very close. Like, they walk out the back of the school, they walk through the practice soccer field, and then they're on the bluffs. Like, it's that close.
Right. But also, I'm like, okay, we already saw lunchtime. We already saw whatever. When is this happening? Because she's in school. Like, this is as bad as Riverdale, where they have Veronica like running a speakeasy. She's like, I'm here during the week. And I was like, bitch, you are also in school. How is this happening? Anyway, they are like walking on the bluffs. And it's this very like, oh, it's Robin's day. This is the day Robin died. My mom's upset. She would have been a junior this year. It would have been her first prom. So it's kind of weird for my mom. And she's like, but I'll be strong because I'm the prom queen. And then he just goes like, I love you. And she's like, I love you too. And I was like, weird, because I think they've only been dating for like a week.
Paige, they went through all the trouble of learning a choreographed dance.
I know.
How dare you assume they can't fall in love during that? Have you not seen Dirty Dancing?
I have seen Dirty Dancing. Their dresses are not that much different.
Similar time period, right? When did Dirty Dancing come out?
A few years after this. A few years.
Yeah, it was 80s, but yeah.
Yeah, it's more mid 80s than early 80s.
Yeah, because this movie feels 70s, honestly.
Yeah.
Like the styling, everything feels very 70s.
Yeah. We cut to another egregious space and time issue where Wendy has taken Lou to the drive-in outside of lunch, definitely off campus. And once she says that she's paying for him, he fully pulls a 55 burgers, 55 fries, 55 taters. Like, it's that immediately, where he's like, couple burgers, couple Cokes, Coke for her. And she's like, give me a small Diet Coke, please. Like, what is happening?
Well, he orders at least 2 burgers and a Coke and fries. And he's like, get her the same. And she's like, no, I just want a Diet Coke.
Yeah.
And then the lady's like, are you sure?
Yeah.
You're allowed to eat, ma'am? And she's like, yeah, just a Diet Coke. A small Diet Coke, I think is what she said.
Small.
Because diet culture, I'm sure, was super real at this time in the world.
Everyone in this movie is thin with big, hefty naturals, and it's wild. They aren't wearing bras for the whole third act. I'm just saying.
They were at prom, Paige.
They were at prom. Can't wear a bra to prom. It's against the rules.
Well, I mean, like, that actually depends on the dress, right? Like, I don't know a lot, but I know that much.
It does.
Yeah.
It does depend on the dress. But as people are disco dancing, there's a lot of bouncing, and people's backs probably hurt really bad after.
Yeah. Slick's back from carrying this movie around it. So sorry, I really like Slick a lot.
From bending over backwards to do that thing Jude likes. Yeah, no, for sure. For sure.
For making sure he's got consent and the lady he's with is enjoying herself as well.
And having a good time. I'm telling you, Slick is the hero of this movie.
He's a martyr for sure, at least.
Yeah. We cut back to school in PE.
Yeah.
Who's to say who's been gone for how long, wherever?
No, because all of the people we just saw at the Bluffs and or drive-in are now done with PE and are going to shower.
Yeah. And we know that it's early in the afternoon because the PE teacher, who is also coordinating prom, is like, hey, you need to be in the gym at 3:15 for rehearsal. So at this point, I'm like, what fucking time is it? Like, what time is it? Where are these people? But as they're leaving, this is where somebody moons Mr. Sykes.
It's one of Kim's friends who's not one of the 4 that killed her sister, and I cannot remember her name, although she does fine in this movie. She dies later, actually, too, I believe.
No, wait, when did she die?
Didn't she die? Oh, maybe not.
No, she lives, I believe.
I mean, good, because she didn't do anything wrong. But anyway, she like moons, if that's still a term people use, shows her full ass to Sykes, who's just doing his job.
Yeah, he's just trying to like mow the lawn and shit.
He's picking up trash.
Yeah.
He's like the janitor / maintenance guy kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And he's probably not the smartest guy. Like he's coded as like a very sort of dumb, but like good-natured, hardworking guy. And it's just these kids don't like him because he does look creepy. I'll give you that. He stares in a weird way. But
I have a theory because he does have glasses on. I think maybe his eyesight's just bad.
he's like, is who's mooning me? Like, what is happening?
Yeah, what is this? All a blur, just a flesh-colored blur.
It's a shame I forgot my contacts at home today.
Now, here's what's interesting. We do get a photo in Wendy's locker, one of the yearbook photos.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have the shard attached to it because what we'll find out is literally in the next scene, they're getting dressed, Kim and Kelly. And this is where the mirror breaks and where they get the shard.
Right.
And so the shards don't start happening till after, but they start putting them in people's lockers.
The one scene I needed, and this is Kim's brother, Alex, right?
Right.
Who is putting the pictures up. We don't know that yet. This movie is sort of a whodunit.
Yeah.
And we don't find out he done it until the end. But
Right.
I needed a scene where we get like killer POV so we don't see it is, but like gloved hands with like a hot glue gun and a magnet and like making those like shard glass things so he could stick it up on, because you would have to like hot glue a magnet to the shard and then stick that on the locker to hold the picture up. And I needed a scene of him doing like Etsy crafts before he did this.
Here's what I'm gonna say. Hey, Etsy girlies and convention peoples and Gabe. What a hilarious piece of horror movie history to sell to people as an accessory.
I would take a fridge magnet that is the shard.
Just the shard.
I mean, you'd have to like dull the edges in an appropriate way, but like that would be funny.
Just a mirror shard. I think that would be really, really funny.
I mean, you could probably like print out the photo of one of the killers, right?
Right.
And then it come as a set. Why am I doing your job, Gabe? Let's do it. Let's come on.
I'm just saying, like, that would be a really, if I walked into somebody's house and they had just a mirror shard as a fridge magnet, I'd be like, prom night? Fuck yeah.
I do think for a lot of people, for me, I'd probably need the yearbook clipping to get it. You know what I'm saying?
But I'm saying you could put it on anyone's photo and they're next.
Ooh, I like that. Guys, when Gabe makes these, if you have kids, get it and let them know which one's not your favorite. You know what I'm saying?
Not your favorite?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, you're on the edge of the bluffs right now.
Oof. So Sykes is fixing the exit sign after the mirrors break in the locker room and there's, a lot of ladies running around in their underwear. I do like that they're like, let's check. And they go outside half dressed. They're like, no one out here.
I know. If that is a thing that could have happened in high school, like you can just make noise outside the women's locker room and then they'll walk out half dressed, I would have done that a bunch in high school. That's not a thing the ladies would do.
I'm just picturing you with like cymbals and quad drums and just like.
They're called tenors, Paige. And yes, actually, you know what's funny is the blacktop the band rehearsed on was close to the locker rooms, both the guys and the girls, but it was right there. And I can very much attest when I was practicing being in one of the best high school drum lines in the world, no women came out half clothed. And we were, if you remember from earlier in this sentence, actually really good.
Yeah, that just shows you how little people care about band.
That's my point. I'm not even joking. When I say one of the best in the world, we were. Like, we went to the world competition and got 6th and 7th 2 of the years I was there. Like, we were great and nobody cared.
If you were that good, I think people would have flashed you for it.
But I'm over here looking like Sykes at him.
Yeah, just like, while he's like fixing the exit sign. And I'm telling you, I think Sykes just has bad eyesight.
I know, right? You know what's really funny about that is I do a like performatively like silly, like a weird dude trying to be sexy. It's like a joke I do with Natalie.
Sure.
I sort of make a face that's similar to Sykes's. And yes, it is. It's like you tilt your head down, look through the top of your eyes and sort of smirk in a creepy way.
Yeah.
And Natalie hates it.
See, I do the like, I get deep into my sweatshirt hood and then I ask for bacons in return for sexual favors. That's the version I do at my house.
I love that you turn your neck uncircumcised and then beg for bacon.
4 bacons, please.
I'm assuming you want your bacon uncut.
Please cut the bacon. That's what makes it bacon.
It is. You don't want it still attached to the hog. You're right.
Right. And I don't even fully remember how Jake and I were watching something that had sex, like old timey sex workers in it, and I was pretending to be one of them.
I remember this. Yeah, you were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thus, the character of Janice was born.
Who gets paid for sex works in
bacons.
Yeah.
Yes.
I did think that was really funny.
And because I have a very good and kind husband, he will often put my turkey bacon in the oven in the morning before I get up so that by the time I get up, it's warm so I can have breakfast. And so he'll just be like, is 3 slices okay? And I'll just be like, 3 bacons, please.
I wish you all could see Paige hold her hood up over her face in shame right now. It's adorable. Paige, that's so much fun, though.
More bacon.
Paige, honestly, Natalie has turkey bacon a lot of mornings, and I could definitely take a card from Jake's book in that and maybe throw it in the oven for her.
You could.
I got to step up my game as I become a husband in October.
There you go. And integrate the spirit of Janice into your relationship.
If she post-sex asked me for a number of bacons, I would give her bacons. It's worth it.
6
guys.
bacons, please. Oh, it was a good one. All right. Glad to know I'm doing it right.
I know, right?
That'll be 4 bacons. Anyway, Sykes also cleans up the glass because the kids just left it there.
Yeah, he's a good guy who takes pride in his work.
Yeah.
And has astigmatism.
Yeah.
Or something that makes him look weird.
Maybe a lazy eye.
Yeah.
But it looks like he's working hard.
He's got to work so hard because one of his eyes is taking the day off, Paige.
Yeah.
I don't think he actually has a lazy eye. He just looks a little creepy.
doesn't.
Yeah, he's coded very creepy by the movie.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be a red herring.
Anyway, she runs to rehearsal in the gym. Meanwhile, Kelly opens her locker, and this is where we find the photo with the mirror shard, which again... Sorry, Jake just texted me and says, if you make Janice into a tulpa, I swear to God.
I love that he texts you the word tulpa unironically.
Tulpa.
That's great.
Not enough bacons in the world.
I did think it was crazy that like all 4 of the people who murdered Jamie Lee Curtis's sister accidentally have clippings in their lockers. And they're like, why did we all get specifically us 4 clippings?
Right.
What happened to us that in our past that maybe someone would want revenge for? And I was like, of course, the murder, because I live in a post I know what you did last summer world, but they don't. So they have no idea. And I thought it was crazy.
And also, how are the mirror shards sticking? Because you're right, we didn't get a craft montage where it's like, da, 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 hot glue in the shards, onto magnets now. Like it's not there.
I do love it was like pseudo A-Team music while you did that.
Yeah, the A-Team for all of them's kids that killed his sister. Anyway, we cut to, they do a rehearsal and they're like, okay, this is where you dance, this is where the thing, blah, 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 blah.
And like they're walking Kim and Nick through this because they're prom king and queen, but her brother is also there, seemingly to just shake the king's hand.
And hand off the bouquet.
Right. He's not even like giving his sister away.
Right.
It's weird. And then just so the director can have him say, that's my sister.
That's my sister.
The lady who's the teacher, like sponsor of this, like whatever weird toxic king and queen bullshit that actually still probably happens at proms. Like she's directing them through it. She's like, now kiss your sister. And he's like, but that's my sister. And she's like, I know, I just said that. I think the audience has heard it enough. They get it. But then he kisses her and then shakes Nick's hand. And then that's the end of it.
Well, because she's like, kiss Nick. And he's like, on the mouth. And he's like, no.
It does feel like they're 12 years old for a second, because like if Alex had been like, but she's got cooties, like they could be 12.
Yeah. Anyway, we cut to them getting ready for prom. And this is where she's wearing that like weird cover thing that just makes it look very, very old.
It looks frumpy.
Her mom is kind of anxious. And
it's the anniversary. Like that is a thing. Like that's a thing that happens. That actually made sense to me. Although I thought maybe they were also trying to set up the mom as a red herring because that had already happened, right?
I thought so too. I thought it might be the mom. Yeah.
But that's Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
But that had already happened. And that might have been just like a little red herring homage to other slashers, which it seems like a lot of the red herrings are, well, this is the Mike Myers homage.
Right.
Well, that would be the Friday the 13th homage, right?
Right.
Which I sort of like. It's like paying homage to those things.
Yeah.
But still doing something different.
I did think it was weird because her dad's the principal. That's why her mom is also going to prom, even though she's having a rough time. They're going to take walks, whatever.
Yeah, he's like a chaperone. So he's got to be
Right.
there from like an administrative standpoint, but he doesn't have to like hang out necessarily. So he is like there, but like spending most of the prom night with the mom.
Right. But I did think it was interesting that they left without taking any photos or anything of Jamie Lee Curtis and her date because Nick doesn't get there till after.
Well, I think maybe they saw the dress and they were like,
no thanks.
We've got better pictures. What's unfair is like, I think when she takes off the wrap or the cover,
it's a great dress. Yeah.
It looks great. But like when she is revealed, it's like it cuts to her already standing there. And it's like, there isn't that big reveal moment we get for like a lot of prom movies, even in like the horror realm. Like I think Carrie sort of gets one.
Yeah, and Carrie's dress is fucking gorgeous.
It is. I feel like this is this weird, like right in between the 70s and 80s style where it's like still a little too conservative and still flashy a little bit. So it's very colorful, but frumpy looking. And when she takes off the wrap, it looks great.
Yeah, but also compared to Wendy, it looks extra frumpy because next we cut to Wendy, who is in a red sequined disco magic dress that I want.
Yeah, that woman was like, I gotta go to prom later. Let me dress accordingly. She looks great.
Yeah. She looks amazing. And then Lou and the other two guys show up. None of them are dressed for prom. And they are actively just swigging out of a bottle of Jack Daniels in the car.
Yeah.
And she's just like, just get me to prom. Fuck it. And I'm like, girl, run away. Walk to prom. I don't care.
But it's very clear that like she is trading at least the hint of sexual, stuff with Lou
Yes.
in order to get them to do a carry, more or less.
Well, and at one point he calls her ahead of the prom and she's like, what am I wearing? You mean right now? And she's like, oh, no, later to the prom. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
About Lou missing out? She was definitely gonna phone sex you to keep you in on the plan.
Exactly. I don't think she's into Lou at all, though, because
No.
at the very beginning, we know, because she's like, Lou, stop calling me or whatever.
Right.
That she's not a huge fan, right?
Okay, but we get a brief shot, the cutout yearbook photos and the phone and the school being empty and like all of it. And in that cutout yearbook, the next photo underneath the ones that are cut out is Lou's, and he full on looks like Sloth from Goonies. It's one of the craziest pictures I've ever seen, where they clearly were like, no, make a weird face. Like it's bonkers that I was like, that's his school photo? What is happening?
He just got done saying, hey, prom king.
Hey, you guys.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
But like as we get to prom, this is where they do that full-on like 3-minute choreographed dance number between Jamie Lee Curtis and Nick. And it's like awesome. I love it.
Well, but first,
Oh, we'll get there. Sorry. Yeah.
we'll get there. Everybody gets to prom, including Slick, who it seems like does not know anyone at the prom. He has to be a junior or something. For some reason, they don't know him, even though there's only 15 people at this school.
Yeah, he may be a year younger, and maybe he transferred in like a month ago. Like, there are ways to explain that. They never do. It doesn't bother me, though. The movie's so fun and like crazy that like I don't care that this probably should have taken place over 3 days and not 1 day.
Yeah, regardless.
But it's the third act. We're getting to prom night.
Yes.
So let's get into it. Yeah.
Well, and he just walks up to her senior friends and is just like, hi, Seymour Crane. Nice to meet you. Just full confidence. And they're like, who the fuck is... All right, man. Cool. Nice to meet you.
Who the fuck is this definitely going to be a partner at his law firm by 30?
Yeah.
Like this charismatic, smart, like driven person.
Yeah, everyone's kind of confused by him, but
Yeah.
like, all right, cool. You guys have fun. It's kind of... Anyway, they're dancing. Wendy is trying to steal Nick. Kim is upset about it, but they get onto the dance floor. The dance floor splits, and then we get a full 3 whole minute choreographed dance sequence between Jamie Lee Curtis and the guy playing Nick.
It's great. No notes.
It's fucking awesome. Like, I know that I'm like, this is definitely padding the runtime, but I'm like, no notes, don't cut it.
No, please don't. It's great.
Leave it, add more sequence.
Yeah. And Jamie Lee Curtis is like really doing Nick's not doing bad either. They're like really dancing. It's not like John Travolta levels.
No.
But it's on the same dance floor. And I was here for it. It was great.
It's great. And like, I can't wait for, we have another Jamie Lee Curtis dancing movie coming up on one of the pods in the next few weeks. And I'm very excited for that too.
Man,
Do you not know?
No, I don't.
Well.
Oh, yes. No, I do know. I apologize.
I was going to say, I was like,
Sorry.
it's very famous.
I forgot about the very famous scene from True Lies that we'll be doing on Romancing the Pod at some point soon.
Yeah. Mhm.
Can't wait.
I mean, cut that out if you don't want to spoil it for people. But who cares? Special guest. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, the dance break happens. At this point, we cut to Kelly and the other girls in the bathroom, and Kelly is like, Drew really wants to have sex tonight, and Kelly does not want to.
Yes. This is the part where it was like egregious to me that Kim, who we just saw dancing to the song that is still playing in this scene.
Yes.
We just saw her dancing to the song, Prom Night, Everything is All Right. That song is still going on when she's in the bathroom reapplying her makeup. And I was like, is the DJ just repeating tracks, or are there two Kims? Like, what is happening in this world?
I think the implication is that their dance scene was only part of the song and then she went to the bathroom, but we know it wasn't because we just watched 3 whole ass minutes of it.
We saw the whole song.
Anyway, so all the other girls in the bathroom, instead of validating Kelly's concerns, about not being ready to have sex and being pressured into it. They're all just like, it's fine, you barely feel it, and just like leave.
It's just like getting a shot. And I was like,
Yeah.
I hope no one's ever said that about having sex with me.
No,
Like, that's not a great way to describe it, right?
it's not. And Jude is like, yeah, it's no big deal. And they're like, one date and she's a sex counselor, which again supports my theory that she and Slick have already banged it out once.
Actually, that's interesting because later we see that they're like post-sex and she does say it was my first time, but she might have been referencing a time that happened off screen before school that day.
Yeah, who
Because it's
knows?
all the same day, right?
Who knows?
Because she wouldn't have had sex.
Right.
And they haven't gone on a date. I mean, they're on a date right now, but presumably you wouldn't have sex at the beginning of your first date.
I mean, maybe you wouldn't, but maybe she would.
I mean, as long as both people are consenting, have fun. I don't care.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, yeah, all the advice they give her is terrible. And it's very clear that aside from Slick, none of the men in this movie are prioritizing their partner's experience. But they're like, yeah, it's like a shot, which reminded me of one of the first few times I had to go to the gynecologist.
What?
Yeah.
Hang on.
No, thankfully that woman, middle-aged, very motherly, liked her a lot.
Great.
And she, as the procedure was happening, was like, don't worry, sex doesn't feel like this at all. And I was like, oh, okay, thank you. And she was just like, I got you, fam. And she's right. It does not. Very different.
That is such a weird and kind thing to say.
Yes. Yeah, no, as a grown-up, I consider that to be extremely kind.
Yeah.
To be like, it's not like this.
Yeah.
Like, this sucks. I know. I'm also here too.
Yeah.
But don't worry, sex is not like this. Cool. I was like, great. Thanks, lady.
Nice. That's great.
Yeah, she was cool. But who should show up but Lou and Wendy? And I just have in my notes, Lou is upsetting in every way. And this is because this is when he's dancing on the dance floor and it's a whole mess. But this is also how we see that he's wearing jeans, a stained white t-shirt, a white bow tie, and a suit jacket that is roughly 2 sizes too small.
Paige, the man's at prom. Let him dress up.
He only gets out of the swamp once a year. Disco Shrek is here to play.
He's here to knock someone out with a backhanded slap. And I'm not saying that Nick's a real glass Joe, but like he does pass out from someone slapping him in the face.
I do love a good slap pass out.
Yeah.
But we cut to Kelly and Drew in the locker room and they're making out. And she, in the moment, is like, no, you know what? I'm not ready. And he instead is like, no, I want you. And then they have the weirdest kiss I've ever seen, where they like put their lips together and just shimmy them back and forth.
Yes, it is a closed mouth, but it looks like they're trying to mime what a French kiss might look like if you've never French kissed somebody. It's uncomfortable. It's like, I did not love it.
It was wild. And she's just like, no, I don't want to do it. And he's like, what are you, some sort of fairy tale princess? If you don't, I know plenty who will. And then just leaves her in the locker room to get dressed by herself. And I was like, this bastard. But then Alex, aka the killer, spoiler, I mean, I'm assuming we've already kind of talked about it.
Yeah, we all know that Alex is the killer.
In the balaclava,
Yeah.
comes and slits her throat with that mirror shard. And I'm just like, I know Kelly accidentally killed your sister, but like, other than that, poor Kelly. Like, Kelly didn't deserve to die like this. This is ridiculous.
For the record, I do think it's an accident. I don't think anyone deserves to die for this. And I think it's very confusing that his last words are, I killed my sister, because he didn't.
He did not, and he was not there.
Well, he was there. He saw it happen. He didn't stop her from going to play. Like, I understood the survivor's guilt of it all.
Sure.
But survivor's guilt doesn't make you murder the people who accidentally killed her. It might make you take your own life at worst. Anyway, I thought it was just crazy. His whole motivation for it was that he thought it was his fault.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? It doesn't make sense to me that he would want to kill other people if he was taking ownership of it.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. Anyway, it's just you're taking revenge on the wrong person, I suppose, if you're blaming yourself. And shouldn't be, but blaming yourself for your sister's death.
Right. Anyway, we cut to a blood to overlay to punch bowl. And this is where Wendy and Nick are hanging out and Kim gets mad about it. But then also we find the gym teacher and one of the other teachers. She's like, what about our dance? Because the teacher was about to dance with a student. And I was like, what is happening? And then we cut away from it and we never come back to it. And I have so many questions. But we immediately cut out to the van where Slick and Jude have just had what seems to be a positive and satisfying sexual experience together.
Yeah, I mean, they're like banging it out in the shaggin' wagon, which I do think that this makes his van a check-off shaggin' wagon, which I love.
Yeah.
Because it sets it up in the first act and they bone it down in the third act. So like, love it. But yeah, like they just both have a good sexual experience and then try to have another one in a different location, decide that location sucks, and they go back into the van and die.
Well, so first he goes out to pee, and the whole time it's presented as like the killer's watching them because the killer's after Jude. And so while he's like out there peeing, he's like, was it good for you? Okay, good. I had a good time too. I was like, oh my God, Slick checking in with his partner. Great. But then she's like, let's do it on the bluffs, which is something that I meant to say to my husband later today and then forgot about it. And now I've remembered it. Thank you, cold medicine. But to just like, let's do it on the bluffs. They go out to the bluffs. They put a blanket down. They kiss. They hear a twig snap. And they're like, no. So they go back to the van to get more joints. They open his book of joints, which has so many joints in it.
I thought this was hilarious.
Hilarious amount of joints.
Did you see what book it was?
It was history.
It was A History of the American People, Volume 1, which apparently covers America until 1877. And I was like, oh, I'm 100% sure this doesn't go back any further than like the mid 1600s. And that's where it, quote, starts.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking that it just covered the years that they farmed marijuana legally in America. Like prior to now.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't made illegal until it was a race issue.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyway.
Have you ever hollowed out a book to hide something in it, Paige?
I gave up halfway through. If you've ever tried to hollow out a book, it's a pain in the ass.
I once spent an hour and a half, and it was a pain in the ass, hollowing out an unabridged dictionary so I could give the lady I would eventually marry the first time, guys. It didn't work out. I wanted to give her a nice necklace that I had bought her, but it was pretty clear what it was if you wrapped it. So I bought an unabridged dictionary, which is like super thick, and I cut out the midsection and put it in there. And then when she opened that present, she was like, if any of us need a dictionary, it's you.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Just open it. And she was like, oh, okay. Okay. This actually makes sense. This is a great gift. Here's your stupid dictionary back. I thought it was funny. It didn't actually go as well as I had hoped it would, though.
Sure. But yeah, it does take a long time to hollow out a book.
It does.
It's oof magoof. So it seems like smoke up a joint and potentially start having a second sexual interaction, at which point Jude kind of falls out the back door of the van and the killer just starts stabbing her. And I love that Slick's first inclination is no, and like punches the killer off of her.
Yeah.
Like immediately defends her and then takes off in the van to probably try and get her to safety. But then the killer jumps in and out of the van multiple times, gets the wheel. They end up like pushing each other in and out of the van until the van goes over the bluffs and explodes in a fiery inferno.
Paige, what is so hilarious about that to me is that the back of the van explodes a millisecond before the front of the van hits the ground.
Right?
And it made me laugh so much.
Oh, and they clearly only had one take to do it. And so...
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's probably... Well, we'll talk about the budget, but I bet the director was like, whatever, it'll work. We don't have enough money to do this again.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. After they spent conservatively 5 minutes doing donuts on the lawn with the killer hanging off the van.
Yeah.
We cut back to school where Sykes is drinking and we see Wendy next to Lou and his friends. And one of Lou's friends is sucking on her shoulder.
I'm sorry. What? Is one of her friends a leech? I missed that completely.
So it's his blonde friend. He's in the back of the car earlier, and then they're kind of standing as like a crowd together. And Wendy is standing with Lou on one side and this dude on the other side, and he is fully like sucking on her shoulder. And she kind of like brushes him off.
Okay.
And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, what is happening in this movie?
It's very strange.
But this is where she goes to the bathroom and she's like, do you have any mascara? But it turns out to be the killer with an axe. And thus begins her 5K through the school.
Yes, through a second big-ass gymnasium that this high school has.
Which is clearly the same gymnasium, yes.
I think she goes upstairs to a second-floor classroom at one point.
She goes to a lab.
Yeah. It was a lab. And then she goes...
She goes to the metal shop.
with a bunch of cars just around, right? It's crazy.
And again, the whole time you can hear the prom. And she keeps going to doors that are locked. I'm like, bitch, go to the prom. You were right there.
I love how no matter where she is, it's always equidistant away from the prom.
Right, sound-wise.
Because the music is the same level of sound. It's so funny to me.
Well, and like, she goes into like a closet and then like he walks by and then she like makes noise so he comes and finds her. And then she goes to the metal shop and she's in a car. And he clearly just like looks in the window and is like, gotcha.
Well, because you locked yourself in a box very loudly. Like he knows where you are.
Right. And then like she goes into another storage closet and it sounds like there's paint dripping, but it's actually Kelly's blood. She screams. He gets her. Axed. Dead.
Now, the killer during her kill says now like 3 times, and I was very confused as to why he was saying that, but...
Well, it's a reference to the phone call earlier where he's like, now it's your turn. Because it's like, you killed my sister, now I'm gonna kill you, I guess.
I needed 2 more words out of that then.
Sure.
Now it's your turn, which I guess is 3 more words, but still.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the cops show up at the school to tell the sheriff, they're like, hey, we caught that catatonic schizophrenic who could ever really top that. He was 50 miles away.
Can I say this about this scene?
Yes.
The cop and the lieutenant are so close together.
It looks like they're going to kiss.
I thought they were going to kiss, Paige. It looks like a romantic movie about to kiss for the first time framing of these 2 people who were like talking about this murderer who escaped an asylum and has murdered a few more people. Like, you're too close, guys. Stop it. It's weird.
Too close. But then the sheriff is like, finally, I can enjoy the prom. And at this point, I was like, okay, so it's one of her family members, clearly.
It's gotta be.
They're about to crown her and they're like, where's your dad? And I was like, might be the dad. But that seems too on the nose because I know they think that we think it's going to be Leslie Nielsen because he's Leslie Nielsen, but I don't know.
Was Leslie Nielsen this famous at that time? I know he was an actor.
Yeah.
But was he super famous when this movie came out already?
I think so, because he did Creepshow 2 years later, and he was already very famous before Creepshow, because I think Airplane, at least the first one, had already come out.
Yeah, Airplane came out this same year. So he was probably either already famous or about to be very famous.
When did the first Naked Gun come out?
I think it was later than this. I'll check, though. 1988.
Okay.
Naked Gun, from the files of Police Squad. And if you haven't seen the TV show Police Squad, go to YouTube. That was 2 years after this movie, though. That came out in 1982.
Interesting. Anyway. So at this point, Lou and his crew, which I then just referred to as Lou's crew for like the rest of the movie.
Oh, Lou's Cruise!
Lou's crew.
I love it.
Lou's crew is like, what about Wendy? We got to enact the plan. And they're like, screw her. And he's like, hey, after everyone runs away or whatever, I get Kim all to myself. Any questions? And they're like, no.
But he was definitely going to like sexually assault her. That's like the vibe.
100%.
Which I'm glad they do paint him as that much of a villain because they're about to decapitate this character. So like, I get why they do that, but he's a full ass on villain.
Yeah, but they go backstage and they kind of corner Nick and they slap him unconscious. Lou then takes his jacket and the crown and stands as if he's ready to walk out as king and queen with Kim, but the killer decapitates him and sinks the axe into the like fuse box on the stage, which causes everything to malfunction.
Well, it also electrocutes him.
Right.
So he falls down, which I don't know if you know this about the axe they're showing this entire movie. It has a wood handle for a reason. You know what doesn't conduct electricity?
Wood? I didn't even think about that.
So it absolutely would not have electrocuted him. It drove me insane. I was like, did they forget that like...
They did.
Okay, whatever. Fine. I don't care because this movie's nuts.
I did not think about that, but you're absolutely correct. But they decapitate Lou and his head falls onto the best runway of all time.
It's a literal airport runway, it looks like, because it's got like lights up down the side and it's like going in coordinated succession down it. It's so funny.
I love it. And everyone freaks the fuck out, Carrie style.
Except for Kim's friend, who is not one of the original 4 killers. Everyone else's face that gets a reaction shot is like legit horrified. Her face looks like she saw her brother like shit himself after eating the Shoney's buffet. Like it looks like disgusted, but not like, oh my God, that's a head. It's like, ew, gross.
Ew.
It's like, it's very funny to me.
But they all run, except for Jamie Lee Curtis, who runs and finds Nick, who is now coming to after the slap of his life. And they're like, okay, we got to get away, but who should be there? The axe murderer trying to kill Nick. And they end up fighting on the light up dance floor.
Paige, there's like a time when they're running towards an exit and he almost like slides in, like he's running with the axe and sort of slides in and like blocks the exit. And at that point, I need all of the diegetic music to drop and it just start playing Billie Jean.
Oh.
And then that is the fight scene is choreographed to Billie Jean.
On the light up floor, just like the music video. Fuck.
Exactly. He just like slides in. He goes, shh. And it's just like them fighting over Billie Jean. Hell yeah.
Yes. Now, here's a few things, though. First of all, we kind of skipped over it because a lot of stuff's happening.
Wait. That kid Nick killed my sister. He's just the one that pushed her from the window.
The group of kids who killed my sister.
Yeah.
They're just some kids, but they say that I am the one. But my sister's in the ground. I'm on cold medicine. I'm so sorry. We kind of skipped over it. Sykes, drunk.
Yeah.
Because his life is a living nightmare.
He does come up and like try and warn them there's a murderer on the loose because he's a nice guy. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But they don't believe him. Anyway, this amazing Billie Jean fight happens on this light up dance floor.
Would have loved it.
And Jamie Lee Curtis picks up the axe, looks for her moment, gets him in the face, looks him in the eyes and realizes it's her brother.
Yeah.
They run out to the front of the school and then he like collapses. She has him in her arms and pulls the mask off. And he's like, I killed her. Oh, I killed my sister. And I was like, oh, it's the brother. And then the music, the score is this song that just says, imagine something deep inside.
I know.
And then the movie ends.
And then credits. And that's the movie. So having seen the movie, having talked about the movie, Paige, what'd you think about 1980s Prom Night?
What a ride. What a wild, wild ride.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
It made me want to dance on a light-up dance floor.
I love that. I love the disco of it all. There's so much to like about this movie. Here's what I needed, though. After she smashes her brother in the face with the axe, he goes outside, reveals it's the brother. He says, I killed my sister, which Kim would have been like, no, I'm still alive, dog.
Yeah.
And then he dies. I needed the groundskeeper to come out and be like, reveal that he made them all do it. He fooled them into like thinking that this was the thing. He like convinced Alex to kill all the people that quote killed his sister, right? And then he's like, that's why they call me Sykes. And then he's out.
See, I have an alternate pitch. They take the balaclava off and it's Alex, but then Sykes takes off like a latex mask and it's Leslie Nielsen. And he's like, I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for you meddling kids. And they're like, old man janitor. And it's just a Scooby-Doo episode.
Love it. Anyway, Paige, do you have any fun facts for us?
I do.
Well, hit us with your fun facts. Prom night, fun facts. When they're 2-syllable titles, it's easy to guess.
It's really easy. So Casey Stevens, who played Nick, had a tough time learning the dance. And Jamie Lee Curtis is a great dancer and did all of her own dance moves. So they had to put in a dance double. So whenever you kind of pan around and you see over his shoulder and you don't see his face, it's a dance double.
No shit. Okay.
Yeah. Now, the director, Paul Lynch, in an interview has said that he had trouble securing funding until Jamie Lee Curtis signed on. And then once the film was shot, Paramount wanted to distribute it, but they only wanted it to open in 300 theaters as opposed to Avco Embassy Pictures, who offered to release it in 1,200. So they went with Avco. But that same year, Paramount released Friday the 13th, the first one, which became a much bigger hit.
It did.
So I know that as we were talking about this, we were like, oh, that's the, if it was the mom, that's the Friday the 13th. That wasn't even out yet. So that was just a kind of a coincidence that it could have maybe been the mom. Now, Brock Simpson is the kid. He's the kid version of Nick, but he's the only actor who has appeared in all 4 Prom Night movies.
Really?
Yes.
Weird. Okay.
Yeah, so there's this one. There's Hello, Mary Lou Prom Night 2, which is fucking bonkers.
That's the one you want to get to, yeah.
That's the one I want to get to. And then I think there's a Prom Night 3, and then there's a 2008 Prom Night that we did not do.
Is that a reboot?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
I have not seen it, but I assume it's a reboot.
Yeah.
Hamilton High is the one setting that's consistent across all of the Prom Night movies because it's not consistent characters or consistent stories. It changes every time.
So it all happens there.
Yeah, it all happens there.
That's interesting. Okay, cool.
Yeah. According to the Blu-ray commentary by the director, the van that goes off the cliff in the movie was actually stolen by the stunt coordinator.
What?
Now, I don't know if that's after the explosion or before, but that is something that was said.
Okay, interesting.
The composer, a guy named Paul Zaza, wrote all of the disco songs in only 5 days. And boy, don't you want to know how much cocaine that took. But we'll never know.
I mean, that may have been half of the budget of the movie, the cocaine budget, to get to writing all those songs. But that's how you get lyrics as good as Prom Night, Everything Is All Right, and then repeating that 40,000 times.
I do love that this entire movie is just banger disco songs.
Yeah.
That are unique to this movie. They don't exist anywhere else, just bangers. So, this is filmed over 24 days in Toronto, Ontario, from August 7th to September 13th, 1979.
I'm sorry, how many days?
24.
That's fast. That's real fast.
That's not a lot of time. That's very fast.
Yeah.
So it's filmed at a place called Don Mills Collegiate Institute. So that's the main school location.
Okay.
But Langstaff Jail Farm in Richmond Hill, which is an abandoned correctional facility, I believe, was used for the abandoned building featured prominently in the movie's beginning.
Okay.
Now, Casey Stevens, who played Nick, only has one other film on his resume, a movie called Threshold from the year after. Unfortunately, in 1994, he passed away from an AIDS-related illness just as his acting career was beginning to take off. It's very, very tragic.
That sucks, yeah.
Now, this is one of only few movies in film history to show an actual telephone number, 614-481-6221, instead of a 555 number. As of 2021, this is still a functional number. It's the fax number for the Grandview Heights Parks and Recreation Department in Ohio.
What?
Yeah. An official soundtrack was released in June of 2019, nearly 40 years after the movie came out itself.
Wait, so I can go listen to Prom Night?
I believe you can.
Oh my God, someone get my Spotify.
Now, according to The Horrors of Hamilton High, which is a documentary about the making of this and other prom nights, an actress named Eve Plum was supposed to play Kim until Jamie Lee Curtis's people expressed an interest and Eve was replaced.
Okay.
Now, the subplot about Leonard Murch was added late into the production of the movie, which is why you don't see any of the main characters other than the sheriff interacting with that plot line.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and why most of Leslie Nielsen's comments about it and things are in voiceover because it was not originally included in the movie.
Okay, that makes sense, actually.
Yeah. Director Paul Lynch had originally conceived a movie about a psychotic gynecologist to cash in on the Halloween slasher craze, but upon being told that such a movie would be distasteful, rewrote it into this movie after a meeting with producer Irwin Yablans. Now, Irwin Yablans had suggested a horror movie with a holiday as the basis for the movie, much like Halloween, and so Paul Lynch decided that Prom Night would be the Halloween.
It is kind of a holiday, yeah.
It is. Jamie Lee Curtis and Casey Stevens briefly dated during production. That's kind of fun.
Oh, well, there you go.
Now, multiple critics upon seeing this, in part because it was released just months after Friday the 13th and a couple other things, this has been called by Gene Siskel and others as a watered-down version of Halloween crossed with Carrie. Another critic called it a combination of Friday the 13th and Saturday Night Fever.
I think both of those are accurate, but it made me like it because of those things.
Yeah.
Although, to me, the references to the other horror movies felt like homages, and maybe because it's been so long since this movie came out, like maybe if I was actually in that time period, I'd be like, oh, this is hacky. We've seen a bunch of this recently, you know? So I get that criticism, but it doesn't bother me now in hindsight, you know?
Yeah. So fun fact for another movie that has been done on this podcast before, but Prom Night is not the only movie that Jamie Lee Curtis and Anne-Marie Martin would star in together because Jamie would come back for Halloween 2 and Anne-Marie would play Darcy, Nurse Karen's friend that is promised a ride home from the party at Stevie Mackey's house. However, she is uncredited for her brief appearance. And those are your fun facts.
Well, thank you for those fun facts, Paige. Let's talk a little bit about box office. And because this movie is from 1980, I don't have a lot of information like I normally do, but I do have budget and total box office performance. So let's talk that. What do you think the production budget was for this movie in 1980 when it was released?
$2 million.
Oh, Paige. Yeah. So this is a low budget movie. It was $350,000. Now,
damn, it looks good for $350,000.
it looks great, Paige. If you adjust that 350 to for like the inflation, it would be like $1.3 million today, which like they did a really good job with that budget. Like $1.3 million is not a lot of money for a movie today.
Right.
But, and again, I don't have the weekly like numbers, the weekly performance, but I do have what it made total. Do you want to guess what it brought in its total theatrical run?
I mean, it was in 1,200 theaters, which is a lot at the time.
It's probably most of them, if not all of them at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to say that in its theatrical run, this makes about $1.5 million.
Paige, it did way better than that, actually. It was $14.8 million.
All right.
Which, even though it was like, I guess, poorly reviewed, right?
Yeah.
It still did well. I mean, on a $350,000 budget to bring in, 14.8, that's a ton of return on investment. And if you adjust that for inflation, that's like 56.5 million almost in today's dollars. Like, that's a lot of money. But I liked it. So, like, I get why it did all right in theaters. I get why they made sequels to this, right? Anyway, but that's your box office. Sorry, they don't have a lot of information, but it's an old movie. That happens. Although I do know over the Labor Day weekend, it brought in $2.1 million.
Oh, wow.
But Star Wars was out at the time and was dominating theaters. So it wasn't like number one at all, I don't think.
Yeah.
Anyway, Paige, do you want to hit us with that scary scale?
Sure. The scary scale is a scale of 1 to 10 on how scary we found this movie today. 1 being Ghostbusters, 10 being Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Todd.
Yeah, this is a 1. It's not a scary at all movie.
Yeah, this is a 1 for me as well.
Yeah, it's wonderful. You'll like it. If you like disco, if you like Saturday Night Fever, if you like Carrie, you'll love this movie.
Yeah. I mean, Carrie's the better version, but still, yes.
I don't know about that, man. I like the non-superpower version of this movie.
Carrie is a better made movie.
Yeah, that's fair.
Prom Night is a more fun movie.
That is very accurate. Yeah, because like the performances in Carrie are so good.
So amazing.
Anyway, not that the performances are bad in this. It's just a different movie. That's actually trying to be scary. I think this is trying to be fun.
Yes.
But they're great in their own ways.
That's your scary scale.
Nice. So this week, Paige, you made us watch Prom Night. As we continue our back to school theme, what are we watching next week?
We are watching the 2006 Rennie Harlan travesty, where 4 prep school students discover that they have supernatural powers, but one of them begins to abuse his powers, resulting in catastrophe.
Is this The Covenant?
That's right. It's The Covenant.
Oh my
We're
God.
fucking doing it.
Oh my God. I have not seen this, but I do think this is one of Sebastian Stan's like first movies, from what I understand.
It is his first film. It is his first film with his original teeth. And you know what? Still does a great job, but it's not a good movie. But we're going to have so much fun screaming about it.
I cannot wait.
It's one of those movies where it has like every famous hot guy at the time. And like some of them have gone on to still be successful. I mean, Sebastian Stan clearly the most successful, but it is a wild who's who of who all they got in this crazy movie with a mythology that makes no sense.
I love it.
There's so much wrong with it. It's going to be so much fun. I'm so excited. I'm glad we're finally doing it.
I can't wait. Anyway, so your homework for next week is to watch 2006 The Covenant and then come back for that episode.
Todd, you got any reviews for us?
You know what I do? I also have a Spotify review I'm going to read first. And this one's from the Final Girls episode. Let me see whose we should read. We actually got quite a good number of comments on this episode. And a lot of them had a similar themes, but I'm going to read Aaron Newton's because they are the most succinct with a very similar message. And that was more blood, more titties, t-shirt, when? Question mark? Because that's what you were shouting about this whole episode. And like, listen, guys, someone design a more blood, more titties t-shirt and we will put it in the store, I promise. But thank you so much, Aaron, for that Spotify comment. Let me read this Apple 5-star review from Salamandered. I've never heard a past tense of salamander, but there you go. And they say, this show brings me so much comfort on my darkest days. And they say, I really hope the hosts know they've made such an impact on me and bring so much laughter to their audience lives. I love hearing their stories, knowing their thoughts on these different movies, but most of all, I always feel like I'm with friends when I listen. That's great. That's what I want. It gives me the same feeling when I've been laughing so hard, I start tearing up after having a long, rough day that felt impossible to survive. Been there. They deserve the world, and I'm glad they're here. 5 stars. Thank you so much, Salamander. That's very sweet, and I appreciate it. I'm sure Paige does too.
Yes.
But if you want to have us read your 5-star review or Spotify comment, leave us a 5-star review or Spotify comment, and I'll do just that. So guys, if you like this show but want to hear Paige and I talk about romantic comedies or just regular romantic movies, check out our other podcast. Some might call it a sister podcast called Romancing the Pod, where we do just that weekly. It's a lot like this show, but for romance and romantic comedies, because Paige doesn't like them. So we make her watch them, just like you guys make me watch horror over here. But if you want to follow me, I am at Todd J. Awesome on all the social media. Paige is at Rampage Wesley on Instagram?
Yes, and TikTok.
And just Paige Wesley on Twitter, because you got that before some CEO lady, and she wanted it, but you wouldn't give it back, and I respect you for that.
Refuse.
Also, Paige
Suck it, other Paige Wesley.
Paige is also on another podcast. It's great. You should check it out. It's called Cult Podcast with Armando Torres, who is a wonderful person. And if you want to support this show, go to Patreon at patreon.com/horrorvirgin, where there are a lot of great levels and a lot of great things. We do the Patreon shout-outs at the beginning of every episode. We do listener requests, stuff like that, bonus episodes. So you'll be getting all of that content, plus episodes a day early with no ads, and who doesn't love that? So sign up for the Patreon and get a lot of great stuff.
That's going to be it for us, you guys. I'm Paige.
And I'm your horror virgin, Todd.
Keep it oogie spooky.
Yeah. Have an amazing week, guys. Bye.
Bye.
I think I like disco more than I'm willing to admit, nerds.
Disco slaps.
It does.